Apparently we're going. We are live. Let's get this happened kind of impromptu. Field monitor. Let's do this bad boy. All right. Yeah. Apparently we hit a button and we're going. When I saw the title of this yesterday, I was like, now why are we replaying this? We got bankruptcy fraud charges. How is that going? Here. Okay. How are we doing bankruptcy charges? We've already done bankruptcy charges with Keith Freeman. He's the village administrator for Dolton, and he's already under bankruptcy charges. So I just went ahead and said, somebody got a headline wrong, because there's no way that you can have two of the major players within Dolton, both with bankruptcy charges. That's just a no-go. I mean, how's that going to work? And so I brushed it off and said, no, yeah, that's, not really paying attention to that. And then later last night I saw it and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the chief of police, the one that they fired. They put on admin leave, and then they fired him, and just all of this mumbo jumbo. This is just craziness. And apparently this isn't Chief Dolton's, chief of police, Dolton, Lacey, Chief Lacey. This is not his first venture into bankruptcy. This is he's filed 7 different times. So let's watch a quick video here. There's a couple of really interesting things, and then we're going to get into it and just make sure everything's going here, because I kind of did an abrupt start. That's why we're a little early. We're a little early today, but you know what? If you're not 5 minutes early, you're late. So let's just do this and we'll keep going. All right. So let's go here. Big screen. And we will go play.
Charged with bankruptcy fraud, making false statements, and perjury, accused of concealing his income and lying about his spouse's income to avoid paying more than $40,000 he owed in a lawsuit settlement, the case dating back to 2015. The indictment notes Lacey has filed for bankruptcy 7 times since the 1980s.
I'm just so happy, because this man needs to be taken off the street. He does not need a gun or anything.
Those who've been pushing back against the Henyard administration are celebrating the charges, but Lacey's lawyer calls them a witch hunt.
They're trying to find people that will shy away and cooperate with them against the mayor.
Lacey is the second Henyard ally to face a bankruptcy fraud charge. Village Administrator Keith Freeman pleaded not guilty. He's now cooperating with the village trustees who are investigating the mayor, and some believe him to be a whistleblower as well.
They start with people that they believe that they can flip. They go down the line. They show up at 6 o'clock in the morning when a person is not lawyered up, when a person is just waking up, and they're telling you, oh, I'm here to talk to you and be nice to you and don't worry about it, and you're not under arrest, and then we're going to leave and we're not going to arrest you today, but here are some questions that we have for you. So immediately a person puts his foot in the mouth, and from there the fish is caught.
Is that what they did with Lacey?
To a certain degree, yes.
The indictment is separate from former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot's findings that Lacey was paid more than $200,000 in overtime in the last few years, despite not being eligible to receive OT.
With all due respect to Lightfoot, it was her conclusion. She is nobody. She's just the person that came out with a conclusion, and the village is taking it as if it was the scripture.
The village fired.
The village fired Chief Lacey, put him on administrative leave, and then fired him. Remember at the beginning of when they put him on admin leave, it was last Monday, I believe, after they had their meeting. And then on Tuesday, Chief Lacey shows up. We'll get into that. But I mean, the odds of, 2 major players here, bankruptcy fraud, that's pretty specific. Let's get into the details here. just some crazy stuff going on in Dolton. that we all kind of have gotten used to. And yet every single day, something new comes up. Literally, something new comes up. And you're like, what? Wait a minute. What? Wasn't he already indicted for bankruptcy fraud? I mean, that's a pretty rare deal, right? But according to, that last news segment, 7 times. That's what Chief Lacy is since the 1980s, probably since he was working. Gets a bunch of debt built up. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to go banko. Go banko. I'm surprised a judge will allow him after that many times. Usually you only get a handful. Federal grand jury in Chicago has charged Louis Lacy, the acting police deputy chief in South suburban Dolton, with bankruptcy fraud charges in connection with an alleged scheme to conceal assets and income from creditors and prevent payment of the settlement of a lawsuit. Now, that lawsuit started in 2015. They had a judgment in 2017. Lacy declared banko in 2019. And then he's done it at least one more time. And he is slippery. He is sly. If these alleged, allegations are true, which we don't know. But when you got a grand jury saying, 9 counts. 61-year-old Louis Lacy, a Madison resident, has been charged with bankruptcy fraud, making false statements and declarations in a bankruptcy case, and perjury. He lied. Uh-oh. This is according to a 9-count indictment returned in U.S. District Court in Chicago on Monday afternoon. Now, his attorney is saying, hey, this is retaliation for him being associated with TIF. Okay, all right. But a grand jury returned this. I mean, you know what I mean? And they're not exactly probably friends of those who are trying to take down TIF, right? I mean, there's no correlation there. But of course, the attorney, that's what he's going to say. The indictment alleges that since the 1980s, Lacy filed several personal bankruptcy cases in the U.S. Bankruptcy Court, Northern District of Illinois, including 2019 and 2020, which included materially false and fraudulent representations. Can you believe that from Police Chief Lacy? Can you believe? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. So, which accused Lacy of still owing $43,000 of the $55,000 settlement. So that was from lawsuit in 2015, settled in 17. He recorded bankruptcy in 2019. Since then, he's made over $200,000 in overtime. You think he'd just wipe out this judgment? Hey, let me pay that bad boy off and move on with his life. But no, he probably spent all that money on a bunch of other nonsense. And one of the funny things that he did is that he tried, we'll get into it, but he tried to petition the court that his wife was no longer with him, that she was living somewhere else, even though they're not divorced, haven't gone down the divorce road. And so her income, shouldn't be part of his total income, the family income that you would report to the IRS. But yeah, she is. And the court system found out. I was kind of wondering, did somebody go to his house at like 6 o'clock in the morning? Hey, can we talk to your wife? Yeah, no, she's asleep in the back bedroom. Thank you. Have a nice day. We got to go. Did something like that go down? Who knows? Because how do you find out somebody's living in your house or not? You know what I mean? Did they stake it out with binoculars? Probably. According to the indictment and the oral statements and documents submitted in the bankruptcy cases, Lacy allegedly lied about being separated from his spouse and claimed that she did not reside with him or contribute to his monthly income and mortgage. Ooh, yeah. But she is living with them and she is contributing. She is, the other half, the better half, Chief Lacy. Prosecutors said the false representations allegedly allowed Lacy to report a substantially smaller amount of monthly income. I think it was like $5,000. Is that what it was? Prosecutors said the alleged scheme unfolded as Lacy was working for the Dolton Police Department. He tried to say he's not working for these entities. My wife isn't working. All this stuff that was just wrong. He was literally defrauding the entire system. Yeah. And then we've got Keith Freeman. The village administrator, village manager, he did the same thing. He was like, yeah, I work for Dolton. I don't get income from Thornton Township, even though he did, tried to hide that. And how do these folks expect to get away with this? I mean, it's not that hard to track down income, right? Lacy attempted to and did defraud his creditors by making false and fraudulent statements and oral statements and documents, the federal indictment stated. If convicted, Lacy could face a maximum sentence of 5 years in federal prison for each count. Ooh, that's roughly 9 times 5. Yeah, just shy of 50, right? 45. That's, what will he get? Will he get convicted? Yeah. Will he do any time? Will he get a fine and be on probation? Probably something like that, right? This is Chicago after all, right? This is land of criminal justice reform. So I don't expect a lot, but it certainly doesn't paint a good picture for any of the underlings that have been associated with the supermayor. A lot of folks are saying, hey, the supermayor is on the lam, and I don't believe she is. I recorded one yesterday, and she's not on the lam. She's hanging out in Dolton. She was shooting some video of a kids event, back to school event on Saturday, this past Saturday. She's going to hang in there because she's got such an ego. She wants to prove everybody wrong that all of this is politicking. You've been hoodwinked. You've been bamboozled. Yeah, all the shenanigans that she's been responsible for are somebody else's problem. And she will stay until the bitter end with this delusional thinking of this is somebody else's problem. The village having a $9 million swing in their general fund alone, 589 checks that they have printed, signed, just not delivered, worth over $6.1 million. They've got zero cash flow positive. Don't know how they're going to meet payroll. And that's what they're talking about right now. So Chief Lacy, they had to have known, the village of Dolton had to have known something's coming down with Chief Lacy because they fired him a week ago, knowing this was coming. Guaranteed. Somebody gave them the heads up. Hey, you know what? Yeah, we got a little inside, info for you here on Chief Lacy, and he's going to be indicted in a week from now. So you guys might want to take that into account and figure out something because you ain't got no police chief. Yeah. So who is the police chief in Dolton? I mean, it's not a huge town, but still, you need to have some coverage for the citizens of Dolton. What does that look like? What does that look like? Because he's fired. So somebody else moved up the ranks and popped into his position. So Lacy's arraignment has not yet been scheduled. They're trying to find people that will shy away and cooperate with them against the mayor. That's what Lacy's attorney, Gal Pisetsky, said. Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, this looks like a pretty open and shut case of somebody trying to pull a fast one, somebody that's been pulling fast ones since the 80s. The guy's made enough money to cover his debts. I mean, unless he's got just a tremendous amount of outstanding personal liabilities, which he could have, that he's willing to risk 45 years in prison for. All right. Okay. Is that the road you're going down? And apparently it is. Now, the Keith Freeman case, that one, all right. So you've never done it before. Okay. First timer. Yeah. You lied to us about all your income sources. You tried to pull a fast one there, and we caught you. All right. I don't think he's going to do a ton. If he goes to try, he'll cut some kind of deal, I think. But the odds of 2 bankruptcy cases with those people so close together, I mean, it's let's just say it's entertaining at the very least. You're like, hey now. Literally last night, I was like, hey, somebody got that title wrong in that video because there's no way the police chief is under bankruptcy fraud charges as well. Article goes on to say, so immediately a person puts his foot in the mouth, and from there the fish is caught. Depends what they say to the person that, ends up on your front porch at 6 o'clock in the morning. Most people are smart enough that they go, you know what? I think I need an attorney. I believe I need an attorney. Willing to answer your questions, but I would like to have an attorney present. It's one of those things I taught my kids when they were young. They didn't listen. They still squawk to the police, but you just tell them, hey, Just be quiet. Doesn't matter what you say. You might be telling the honest truth. But an attorney is going to be able to tell you, okay, yeah, here's the consequences of saying that. Here's the consequences of saying that. Just get an attorney involved, period, right? Public defender, whatever you got to do, get an attorney involved. Just zip it. That's just what you do, right? That's a known quantity. Being honest at that point in time in the investigation, it's going to get you zero. On Thursday, during a highly anticipated presentation of Dolton finances from Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, it was revealed that Lacy had received more than $200,000 in overtime over the last 4 years. So this guy could pay this off easily. He's just going down a stupid road where it sounds like his lifestyle is such. I mean, he's living large. That's all there is to it. He's living large. If he has put this money away and they find this money, yeah, he'll be paying some of that back. But almost guarantee this guy doesn't have assets and he has an income. He's got a good income because he's, taking in OT and he's got his wife working and he makes decent money. So he could be paying a lot of this stuff off, but he's choosing not to. And he's going down this other road of, hey, let's just see what happens. So last Monday, he gets put on administrative leave. Tuesday, despite the termination notice, Lacy continued to show up to work. He's like, oh yeah, I'm here. You guys didn't really fire me. You guys don't have the right to fire me. You guys didn't, in that meeting yesterday, you guys didn't do it the right way. So, and then village members, supervisors are saying, actually, we did put it to a vote and we voted that you would be fired. So you've got this back and forth going on. And the village members said, this is because this might end up being yet another lawsuit. So we don't want to risk that. They're waiting on their attorneys to give them an idea of what to do. And apparently he said, all right, we got enough going. Fire this guy. This guy's a liability. So they must have known that this indictment was coming. And this is one of those things because you heard like three different things. You heard that, well, we've got to cut the budget down. So Village of Dolton, they fired 8 people. We got to cut the budget down. And my thought was, that's not a reason to fire your police chief. No. So then that makes me think, okay, they're going after the police chief for some kind of fraud or something going on. All these accusations of all of this overtime and, going on trips with Tiff Tiff, with the super mayor, all of that stuff. Okay, there must be something involved there. But we didn't know about the bankruptcy charges that are not boding well for former police chief Lacy. Board of Trustees had previously placed Lacy on administrative leave pending an investigation, but he continued to report to work, telling WGN that they did not have the power to put him on leave. I mean, just these incredible storylines. Because most of the time, people that get fired are like, oh, okay, all right, okay, all right. Not in Dolton, because nobody's in charge. You've got literally the blind leading the blind. And, when taxpayers, when the constituents of Dolton can't get into their own city hall, I mean, that's where the rub on all this stuff is just so crazy. Lacy's the second top official in Dolton to face federal bankruptcy charges in recent months. In April, Keith Freeman, we're going to read about that. Now, here is, so we'll get to that, but former Dolton police chief indicted on bankruptcy fraud, perjury. We're not going to read this whole one, but there's a couple of sentences here. Yeah. Lacy filed a bankruptcy petition in 2019, shortly after the plaintiff moved to enforce 2017 settlement, still accusing 43 of the 55. So we've got that. I'm looking for another number. And maybe it's in this one. Sorry. This was the prep time I was going to have that apparently we just went live. Yep. All right. So here it is. This is what I wanted to get out of this article here. On top of his salary, Lacy was paid $39,000 in overtime in fiscal year 2022, $67,000 in 2023, $96,000 in 2024, and $12K since the new fiscal year began May 1st. And yet he can't pay, what is it, 44 off? He can't pay 40 something off? Yeah. Yeah. And then the article goes into, the two other police officers, Officers Young and somebody else. They got paid more in overtime than they had in their base salary, which isn't unusual in big urban markets where you've got not enough police officers, where the whole defund the police thing worked really well, like here in Seattle or down in Portland or in San Francisco. The way that they are making up for the lack of police officers is just running their cops ragged on overtime. So these, there's a cop here in Seattle that made over $400K in a year. I mean, and it was all overtime, and it was legit because you don't have enough police to provide basic safety in a city like Seattle. We just don't have that right now. So OT, it is a plenty. But in Village of Dolton, these police officers, including Chief Lacey, who wasn't authorized to have overtime pay, these police officers are literally just chasing Tiff Tiff, the super mayor, the dictator of Dolton, Tahoe Tiff. They're just chasing her around, pretending to be her private security team. She's claiming that she's got threats against her. It's like, okay, really? Well, when you go to another city, who's after you there? Aren't you just kind of robbing and stealing from your own village? Because that's what it kind of seems like to me. What are you even doing? It's wild, right? So now you've got a big deal with the police chief, former police chief. Yeah, here's that article. Dolton deputy police chief reports to work one day after village board places him on leave. I mean, it is literally comical. You're fired. No, I'm not. You guys don't have the authority to do that. And the village supervisors are like, well, yeah, yeah, I guess we'll just do whatever our attorney tells us to. Because these folks, these are people from the community. These aren't legal experts. These are not HR, titans of big businesses. These are just normal folks willing to step up, take some responsibility. And you've got knuckleheads like not like Lori Lightfoot, but Tiffany Henyard, and the police chief who are going down these roads. Oh, you can't fire me. Well, actually, we just did. We appreciate your work ethic, but you're still fired. And at that point in time, he was on administrative leave. And then somewhere in there, he got the full force of being just absolutely boom, done. He's out of there. So, the whole thing is just the gray clouds over Dolton Village Hall Tuesday evening seemed fitting after trustee Brittany Norwood described the financial woes that loom over Dolton, resulting in the board to vote Monday night to place Dolton Deputy Police Chief Louis Lacey on administrative leave and lay off 8 village employees. So we were about $6 million in deficit. So they have been working. The Village of Dolton has been working with former Mayor Lori Lightfoot. Some of you refer to her as Beetlejuice. Yep. And what they determined is, this is how far off we are from being solvent. So they got a reading on that. And that's literally the whole purpose of Lori Lightfoot's investigation. Because like Tiffany Henyard's attorney, or like Chief Lacey's attorney, former Chief Lacey's attorney said, Lori Lightfoot doesn't have any legal standing. She is not an authority. She doesn't have any authority in this case. All she can do is bring up information, and that's what she did. And so now the Village of Dolton is making some, like the $6 million in deficit. Okay, that came directly from Lori Lightfoot's report. So the report was strictly to give the village kind of a barometer of where they sit. And it basically came down to insolvency. We are insolvent. We are bankrupt. We do not have the cash flow to meet our obligations. We are nowhere close on that. We are wildly upside down. All these checks that are outstanding, more invoices coming in. Their liability insurance has tripled in cost. I think almost tripled. gone from 1.1 million up to 3 point something million because they're involved in like 30 lawsuits. You've just got lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit against the village of Dolton because they're not paying any bills. And it's no wonder people are suing them for non-performance, for contract violations, if they even have contracts. Because half the time when the village of Dolton, assigns work to somebody, it's on a no bid, no contract basis. Yep, go ahead, fix the roofs of those people's homes. It's all good. And then the village doesn't pay. And then all of a sudden the roofing contractor, who doesn't have a contract, who is just told, go out and fix it. The whole thing is wonky, right? Then they start to go after the people that they fix the roofs of, these senior citizens. Whole thing is just a massive convoluted mess. And yes, there will be multiple more lawsuits because everybody's got to get on board and get their number in line. Because when you got 589 checks outstanding worth $6.1 million, there's some real liability out there. So that is one way. I was joking about this yesterday. That's one way to, create positive cash flow. Well, you just don't pay your outstanding bills. I want some more money in my bank account. Therefore, I'm not going to make my mortgage payment. If I had a car payment, I wouldn't make that. Yeah, I'm not going to pay for my monthly utility charges on my house. I'm not really going to pay for, all these debts that we all incur through life. And I'm just going to have more money. Yeah, but that stuff accrues, and it accrues with penalty a lot of the time. And especially when you're in a lawsuit. So legal fees to the board are absolutely going to skyrocket out of sight because you've just got so much liability here without paying, all the invoices that are outstanding. And another major deal with the Lori Lightfoot report was that they get some recommendations on what they can be doing moving forward so that they don't have these kind of shenanigans happen moving forward. Meaning, okay, let's cut out all the credit cards. We're going to wipe the credit cards out. We're only going to have one person available to use the credit cards. That's the village admin. That was my understanding on that. Instead of, the police department having a handful of them and some of the other trustees having them that were cohorts of Tiff Tiff, the dictator of Dolton. I just love running through those names because it's, there's people within history that have all of these nicknames that are just funny to lay out there. Tiff Tiff has earned all of hers, right? I mean, she has earned all of hers. It's wild. It's wild. When do you think Tiff Tiff will raise her head? When's she going to go, all right, I'm here? And when's she going to hold a press conference? When's she going to do probably a Facebook video? Did one, and she was talking about yesterday, but that was on the weekend. She did one, but she didn't really address kind of specifics. She just said, I'm battling. I love you guys. And, I'll see you on the other side. But she hasn't held a real press conference. And she didn't show up to work last Friday because after that Lori Lightfoot report, I wouldn't be showing up either. Hey, Tiff Tiff, knocking on her door at the office. Are we really $6 million in debt? Have you really not sent those checks out that we all authorized and we authorized in our meetings? Have you really gone down that road? I wouldn't be showing up for work on Friday either. I'd let it kind of blow over. And then, maybe show up a few days later. Hey, how you doing? Hey, where you been? What you been doing? How'd you get us in this mess? And they're way beyond that, right? Village of Dolton is way beyond that. So, yeah, it's so funny. But Tuesday morning, despite the vote, Lacey still reported to work. Norwood said the deputy chief claims the board had no authority to place him. I mean, just the whole thing is nutty. Here's that story on Dolton Village Administrator Keith Freeman charged with bankruptcy fraud. This is from April of this year, April 16th. We went through that. I mean, that was kind of a big deal as well. But, this is the personal business of these folks. But it's an indication of who is working for the village and also what kind of people that Tiff Tiff has surrounded herself with. And these people are, I mean, they've got some massive, massive issues. And I think there's going to be a bunch more that comes out from the Dolton Police Department. I really do. If you've got somebody that's willing to, that's, you know, your leader, that's willing to go down, you know, 9 counts of bankruptcy fraud, perjury, and just basically lying to the court system. If you got somebody willing to do that, what else are they willing to do? I mean, you know, to what extent are they willing to kind of ride this ship into the ground? And to me, they're willing to do whatever it takes. And, you know, so much of this, I go down these roads of, are they stocking this money away somewhere? They got a bank account in Switzerland? No, because it doesn't seem like we're that sophisticated. So they are literally just frittering this money away, just expensive meals, just riding the hog high. I mean, that's what they're doing. Does this make any sense? I mean, is that what you do? I mean, is literally this what you do? And you just try and game the system? Apparently. And it's not worth it to me. But then again, this is news for reasonable people, not news for insane people willing to take insane risks that don't make any sense. Because none of this makes any sense. If they had an end game, if I could see an end game in here somewhere, be like, all right, okay. But there never seems to be an end game in these deals, does it? So let's take a quick peek at this. Keith Freeman, 45, of Orland Park, was federally indicted for allegedly engaging in a bankruptcy fraud scheme, including lying about his bankruptcy petition to hide his assets from creditors. It's not good. It's not good. He also underreported fees from his private consulting business, just a bunch of stuff against him. He reported income way less than his 90 grand authorized salary while he was on the village administrator. And then he tried to hide his income from Township of Thornton, or one of those. I can't remember. It was one of those things that was flipped. So it was pretty major. I mean, he had income coming in that it was a known quantity, and he tried to hide that. And, you know, you're not going to, it's not going to go well. So he showed an income of $45K. It was actually, there's a $100,000 salary. I mean, so these numbers are just fried. The books are cooked. Again, the books are cooked just like Village of Dolton. And so what I found interesting is that they're going to keep Keith, they're going to keep him on because he basically knows all of the ins and outs of the village. He knows where the bodies are buried, somebody said in a live stream. He knows where everything is. He's the village administrator. So yeah, he's got this personal bankruptcy issue, but he must have flipped. He must be giving information. And that's what everybody's saying, is that he's flipped. He's now basically an informant to all of the FBI probes and everything else going on, because otherwise he'd be out of there as well. But they need somebody to run the village. When you hear Lori Lightfoot talking about, you know, the folks that they have running the books for the village, you're left with, oh my gosh, this village is taking in, they're taking in about $2 million a month. So $24 million a year, and their expenses went from, say, 24, where they were kind of online, to up to $30 million. And a lot of that had to do with the, you know, the extra overtime police charges, the liability administration going up, and just a whole bunch of additional spending that shouldn't have been happening. You know, they talk about nice meals. They talk about turf and surf and turf. In order to go millions and millions and millions of dollars upside down like the Village of Dolton has done, you got to have a lot of meals out. You know what I mean? So it was just continuous abuse of funds. And here we are. Here we are. So what do we expect to see moving forward? Who else is going to get indicted? Who else is going to get indicted? Well, Tiff, for one. I mean, guaranteed there's going to be something. There's going to be something, because the FBI doesn't come in and ask for a partridge in a pear tree as far as the financial information. They shotgunned everything. They shotgunned everybody as far as, hey, they went on a massive fishing expedition for info. and they've probably got it all. And you know what? With what Lori Lightfoot was able to put together with basically just some monthly reporting from a financial firm, CPA firm that's kind of handling the books, along with bank statements. And then they interviewed a bunch of people. She was able to cobble together a pretty comprehensive picture pretty quickly. It's not vetted. It is not fully, none of the books at Village of Dolton have been, they haven't been, given the final stamp of approval that somebody with a CPA background or a CPA has basically said, yep, this is where we sit. So all of this is unaudited. We have no audited reports on any of the Lori Lightfoot stuff, but the picture that she was able to put together pretty comprehensively means that, it's not just one little segment of finances that have gone sideways in Dolton. It's everything. It's everywhere you turn, because what happens after a while, and we've talked about this, when you are paying expenses for Dolton events with the credit card from Township of Thornton, where Tiff, the super mayor, dictator of Dolton, Tahoe Tiff, where she is paying for Village of Dolton with Thornton's credit card, it's because you have no cash in the Village of Dolton. You have no money. So that's an indicator of, all right, we're misappropriating funds. That means all of the other funds have been drawn down. So there's gonna be other people within this whole deal that will jump ship, whatever other ridiculous terms, shenanigans are gonna, take part. They're gonna have to get somebody in there temporarily. They're gonna have to get somebody in there that's gonna run the books. New folks are going to have to be brought in. And, another example, they had one account, an operating account that went from $2 million down to like $3,900. They drew it down in just a couple of years. And then after a while, they have no cash flow because their expenses are so great now because they haven't been paying them, that whatever little money they have coming in, say a couple million a month, which is about average of what they're taking in, and you are literally millions of dollars upside down. It's literally going to take years for Dolton to work themselves out of this whole predicament, unless they get like a federal bailout. We need one for the whole village. Yeah, and throw Township of Thornton one too, because they're going to need it as well. Doesn't sound like Township of Thornton's in, the super precarious position that Village of Dolton is, that Tiff has put them in. But some heads are going to roll. Some heads are going to roll for sure. So who they are, Tiff is, she's right in line. It sounds like the other supervisors have they've all basically flipped. This doesn't look good. This is not good. But the damage is done. City is insolvent. Village is insolvent. And yet Tiff is still claiming, this is politicking. You guys are being hoodwinked and bamboozled. She is still going down that road. So her ego is so big, in my opinion, that is what's holding her in the pocket. And I think you have something coming down the road fairly soon with Tiff, because they can't just let her hang out there forever, just doing her thing, whatever that is. The event that she had on Saturday, she had some free go-karts. I mean, that stuff is not cheap. You had all the big toys, and not big toys, but Bouncy Village, I think is what they call it. That kind of stuff came after my kids were really little, or my kids weren't interested in it. All these blow up things, these cool blow up things. They had that, and then they had, free food, bunch of other stuff, and free go-karts. Somebody brought in their go-karts, and I want to ride a go-kart for free. All this free stuff, and yet, 2 nights before, Lori Lightfoot said, you guys are wildly insolvent. You guys are upside down over $6 million. You guys got checks hanging out all over. And yet Tiff is still appealing to her, citizenry, saying, this isn't my fault. This is somebody else's fault. Look at them. So no, heads are going to roll. Heads are going to roll soon. Guaranteed. Make sure that you're subscribed to this channel, because we're going to cover it all. I mean, it is a wild, wild ride of political misdeeds. You've got crazy stuff going on. You've got shenanigans for days. And I think a lot of this will get uncovered, because if Lori Lightfoot can do it in that amount of time and put together what she did, and I'm not saying her stuff is 100% right, and she didn't either. She said, hey, this is unvetted, this is unaudited, but here's the broad strokes. You're going to have people's heads roll. So I will be covering that. That's it for me on today's live stream. Thank you all for being here, and I'll see you on the next one. All right, because there's going to be good stuff coming down the road. Thanks again for joining. I'll talk soon. Bye for now.